Hi guys, how's it going? Ivano here. So I tested the changes in the new patch that rolled out yesterday to see how good or bad they really are. So this is now Carnage after the fix. You can see no more crazy Ferrari speed. I simply went on Rishi on the stronghold, hit the dummy a couple of times, popped predation, and then just tried to see how fast it moves to the dummy and back. I knew the patch was coming, so I had done the same the day before when the speed was still bugged. So we can see here a little comparison. So before the fix and then after the fix. As you can see on the left with the timer as well, it's like super Ferrari speed. It just zooms through here. And then as the swiftness stacks fall off, speed gets a lot lower. Pop predation. I actually made a little mistake here because on the left my companion is still hitting the training dummy, so I'm not getting sprint. And on the right, after the bug was fixed, I am getting sprint. On the left we just take 15 seconds and on the right it's like 18 seconds to the dummy and back. So yeah, rip Carnage. I guess it's in a pretty similar spot as it was before the patch. Next I tested medicine, so you can see me here just spamming some heals on the healing training dummy. If you don't know, that's the thing you can do on the Rishi stronghold. Maybe you need to unlock it in the legacy or something. But yeah, basically the buff to surgical probe, I wanted to see really how big it was. So we're just spamming some heals here. What is it? Call to injection is now, I think, like a 1.6 second cast. So that's pretty nice, means you're less likely to get interrupted. But if we look at actually the heals, you will see here on Parsley that really not that much has changed. My average crit was something like 23k with surgical probe, and I think before the patch it was 21k. So a small buff to operative heal, but really nothing that will shake up the PvP meta. Next I tested the force management nerfs to Sage heal. Again, spamming some heals, pretty normal rotation, some mix of single target and AoE. And yeah, the main thing I noticed is that definitely like the dark heal, I think it's called Benevolence for Sages. You definitely don't want to use when it's unprocced because the force cost is quite crazy. And most of your force, you know, you want to spend it on the big AoE heals. So yeah, even in this short rotation here, you can see I'm running out of force. And you definitely need to use Consuming Darkness a lot more. Next I tested Arsenal. This one, to be honest, I think was quite nice, but maybe I expected a little bit more. So yeah, just hitting the was on training dummy here, and you can see still when priming shot doesn't crit, which unfortunately happens quite often. It's very disappointing. But then if you look at the DPS, it's actually not that bad anymore. I think here this was again a 57 non-crit, but then rail shot now hits for 90k, which is super nice because that's an auto crit, of course. And yeah, as you can see, my biggest priming shot 120k, the DPS solidly over 30k now, 84k heat seekers. So yeah, not bad at all for Arsenal, but I think it probably needs a little bit more help to be like truly A or S tier. IO, again, forgive my rotation, I'm really not an IO player. I think this is probably my least played spec. But yeah, testing the changes here, a little bit more armor pen, and then the volatile warhead that now procs more often. But to be honest, I expected a little bit more out of IO. The DPS, at least on the training dummy, is not that great. You still have issues with heat, so if you're bad at the spec like me, yeah, you're gonna have some issues managing heat and you might need to use more rapid shots than you want to, which means that, you know, the DPS around 32k, it's not bad. I would say it's quite balanced, but considering that the spec is probably one of the most challenging ones to play, at least in PvP. You also have the casted white damage dot with the rated shot. I would say it should do a little more damage for how tricky it can be to play. Next I tested lightning, so this is the single target lightning burst build with elemental convection. This one, I think it was okay. I mean, the opener is crazy, of course, when you have polarity shift and you have your recklessness. You know, you're gonna hit those like 40k DPS numbers. I think overall the buffs were okay, definitely also like nothing huge. And I think this seems to be the way that they went, or that they want to go in the future. Do like little smaller tune-ups rather than like crazy buffing or nerfing. So yeah, we fast forward a little bit. Of course, the DPS goes down. It is quite inflated in the beginning when you pop polarity. So in the end, you're somewhere around 31k with the DPS, you know, which is balanced for lightning, at least for the single target build, similar to what we've seen with IO and Arsenal. And then finally, bonus clip. If you have epilepsy or something, turn the screen up now, because this is of course Stormwatch Lightning, and as you can see, the burst is similarly crazy to what you can do with Elemental Convection. Of course, this is more of a PvE playstyle. In PvP, I would not recommend running Stormwatch. It's just too easy for the enemies to pop a cooldown or run away, and then your Stormwatch proc is kind of ruined. But the DPS is pretty good. You know, similar, to be honest, to what we've seen with Elemental Connection. Something like 33 to 32k. So overall, I think, yeah, was a good buff for Lightning, but definitely is not going to make it overpowered. And then Deception, to be honest, this one surprised me. So I think I'm running some PvE-ish kind of build here. So maybe like in a real match, of course, the DPS is not going to be this high. But the Duplicity proc on the extra more damage seems to really add up. Of course, the DPS is crazy in the open now. If you look down here in my DPS tracker, 39k, 37k. But you can really feel like the additional Duplicity procs give you, I would say, less spots in the rotation where everything is on cooldown and you don't really know what to use. Or maybe you're running out of force. But to be honest, Deception, the DPS kind of slaps now. And yeah, if you forward, I think damage is really in a good place right now. But yeah, the main thing will still be target access, which is why I think that in Arena it's going to be even more OP than ever. And in Warzone, maybe it's going to get a little upgrade. But yeah, I think it's still not going to be the best melee spec after this patch. And then finally, I tried Marksmanship. And to be honest, this one, I mean, wasn't even in the last patch. It was in the previous rounds of combat changes, but I hadn't tested it before. And holy hell, actually it does damage now. So the simple extra tick to penetrating blasts, I mean, just look at the DPS meter. Absolutely slaps. It does like 80 to 90k per activation. Of course, I'm running the Agitating Energies tactical here. So that one is more of a PvE playstyle, but totally also works in PvP. I mean, just look at the damage numbers. You do need to get a little bit lucky with crits. Because if you're running the wrong build, as you can see in this next example, you don't crit, you can fuck your energy pretty quickly. So you can see here, getting a little bit unlucky and my energy is already ruined. So at this point, yeah, I don't have my energy cooldown, so the parse is already kind of over. So you definitely need to run the talent that gives you 2 energy back when you crit with a weapon attack. And this way your energy is somewhat sustainable. Of course, Marksmanship gives extra energy regen when you're on cover. I don't really like to run the energy implant because I feel it's just a damage loss. But yeah, in some situations could be better. But I guess the main message is Marksmanship kind of slaps now, so maybe I'm going to play it again. It is, of course, the only true sniper spec. And I mean, yeah, just look at the damage numbers. 38k DPS. And if we forward a little bit, still at 34k. So definitely able to outparse something like Arsenal or Lightning right now. And that's all I have for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what buffs or nerfs you would like to see in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.